All right, Whitney. Welcome to the Hunting Stories podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm super excited that you're here. Obviously, we have a mutual friend, and he's been telling me I needed to connect with you for a while. John Ross out of Texas down there, and
Yeah.
he says wonderful things, and he says he's got some fun stories. So I'm excited to have you. Also, thank you for scheduling so quickly. And I think I expressed to you that for whatever reason I can't get female guests, so I'm glad to have you here. I'm super excited to hear kind of the female voice and some of your stories. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, not a problem. I'd imagine that women are probably a little bit more hesitant with a man reaching out to them. So
Possibly,
that could
yeah.
that could probably make sense. But I've always seen it as if someone's willing to help me, I'm willing to help them. And I think it's cool to just get on there and share stories. I think that's the best way to learn.
I believe that. And you probably know better than me, but I just assume that they're getting lots, female hunters are getting lots of messages from all sorts of folks on Instagram, and I'm just getting lost in the wave of people they don't want to talk to. So either way, I'm glad you did. So thank you. Let's do this, Whitney. Why don't we start this off with you introducing yourself so the folks know
Yeah.
who they're going to hear some stories from today.
Yeah, my name is Whitney. I was just telling before we hopped on that I have not hunted all of my life. I think this will be my fifth season going into hunting this year, and only my third season in Colorado. I started hunting in Texas, so good old whatever they call the adult onset hunter.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was kind of saying before we started recording too that I really want to share, I was, whenever you reached out, I was like, I don't feel like I have much to offer as far as like hunting stories go, which is a lie. I've hunted for 5 years now, right? Like I have
Yeah.
stories. But I was like, man, there's people who have hunted all of their lives who have probably way more to share. But I also think it'd be really cool, like I mentioned, to kind of share my story into hunting. And then there's those hunt camp stories that come along the way with that. So yeah, like so glad that you reached out. And I'm always someone, like even in my career, I've always been like, if someone reaches out to me, I don't care how big or small I am, like I hope that I can always get back to them. So I've never been
Awesome.
that kind of person who just blows people off.
Very cool. Well, yeah, one of my first questions was going to be like, what got you started in hunting? If you've only been doing it for a few years, I told you
Mhm.
I'm relatively new as well, a little longer than you, but not much.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I've got plenty of stories at this point. But like, what got you started? And I guess just jump into the story if you want to start there.
Yeah, yeah. So my dad and my grandpa were both hunters. They're from Texas, rifle hunted whitetail deer in Texas, and that was pretty much the extent of their hunting. But I think
Okay.
what does rifle season start in Texas like November 1st? Like every year, no opening weekend, they're out there, they're shooting deer, whatever. And they both passed when I was really young. I
Okay.
never got the opportunity to get out there with them, to learn from them, anything like that. But it was something that I was always familiar with. My mom would have venison meat and she would make burgers, tacos, and she would tell me that it was beef because I was a picky eater as a kid. So if I knew it was venison, I probably wouldn't have eaten it
That's
at
funny.
the
I tell my kids that like when we cook beef, I tell them it's moose because like they'll eat
time.
moose. But like when we
Really?
do have beef, when the occasion comes in, I'm like, no, no, it's just different moose. And they're like, oh, okay, okay, we'll have moose now then. So
That's
that's
so funny.
funny.
Yeah, I just bought ground beef the other day for the first time in like over a year because I have a deer that I haven't processed yet in my freezer, and I'm like, oh God, it's so much worse. It's so much different. You can tell it's different. But yeah, so anyways, was familiar with it and something that I always was interested in, but my with my mom, we would go to the gun range and shoot like once or twice a year, and that was kind of
Okay.
the extent of any time I spent with like firearms or anything. And then come 2019 or 2020, COVID happens, you're bored, you're trying to figure out what you're going to do with your free time. And I was like, oh, I'll start shooting my gun more. I have this gun that I don't really shoot that often, and
Yeah.
ammo
Great
gets really
idea.
expensive or disappears.
Yeah.
And I was
Meat
like,
disappears. Makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah, meat disappears, all this stuff. And I was like, I can get a bow. I can shoot my bow in my yard. I can reuse arrows. Like, that makes sense in my head. So sure enough, I did the like buy once, cry once. I bought a brand new, it was like the Matthews like V3, whatever the Matthews like flagship
Wow.
bow was at the
Cool.
time. Went all out, and like I've been addicted to shooting my bow ever since. Like I don't think more than a week has gone by without shooting my bow since I've had one in the last 5 years.
That's awesome.
Um,
So you just jumped in like to the deep end. That's awesome. So I started hunting rifle, and then I was like, this sucks hunting in November in Colorado. I would like to hunt in September in Colorado. So that's
Yeah.
why I bought a bow. But like, I was like, man, I can't spend $1,300. I've never even shot a bow. And so I was trying to figure out what to do. And I found Parker. They're not around anymore, but like, I don't even know, 7 years ago, they went out of business. And so I shoot left-handed. I'm also big, so like a 31 plus inch draw. And I was like, they were liquidating. So I just waited as I was like, okay, 20% off, 30% off, 40% off. And I just kept waiting until eventually it was like 70% off
Nice.
anything. And I was like, all right, if you guys still have a left-handed, large bow, they're like, oh, we got plenty. So got it for like a brand new bow for a company that's going out of business for like $300, and that I could justify because I'd never done it before. But same idea. I was like, I just want to try it. I think it'll be amazing. So, and I've completely fallen in love with it too. So that's
Yeah.
cool that we kind of the same path. But sorry, I
Yeah.
interrupted.
No, no, you're good. I'm also a left-handed shooter, and so finding a left-handed bow during the COVID time period when like manufacturing was low or they weren't putting as many out was very hard. So that was kind of the biggest reason I went with a new one was it was one of my only options. I didn't really
Okay.
have I didn't have many options for like a left-handed bow in most of the places that I was looking at, and so actually I was living in Fort Worth at the time, and I ended up having to drive all the way out to oh geez, it was like 2 hours away because it was the closest bow shop that had a left-handed bow in stock.
That's crazy.
And I was
Texas,
like, yeah,
oddly enough, Texas it's pretty few and far between bow shops. Like you have to drive a
yeah,
good distance to get to anything. It's not the
yeah.
case here at least I live in the Denver metro area.
Mhm.
It's not so bad here. I can drive half an hour in any direction and I basically run into one. So
Yeah, yeah, it definitely was a little hard out there because there weren't that many. So anyways, yeah, I picked one up and I had a friend who had gone with me at the time. But then shortly after that, like I would just go in and not long after that is when I moved out to San Antonio. I was working out there and Bernie, I kind of mentioned to you where I know John from,
yep.
Leading Edge was out there, an hour away from where I lived, but I was out there like every Saturday because
Yeah.
I wanted to just go shoot. I didn't have a yard at the time in San Antonio, so I could shoot like 5 yards in my garage, and that was
Yeah.
it.
Blank bailing.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So if I wanted to do more than that, I had to go out to Bernie. There was one that was in town that I didn't really like it that much, so I went all the way out to Bernie every weekend, and the crew that was there was awesome, and they taught me so much. Like I didn't know what the point like in an arrow rest was, or like why are there different arrows? Why do they have different weights? Like I knew
Yeah.
none of this stuff, right? And so I'd be in there for hours at a time sometimes, just like whether I'm listening to the target shooters do their thing and listening to their conversations, or um just asking all these questions like, hey, why'd you make this change to my bow? Or, I think I've been shooting just fine. Why all of a sudden am I not shooting fine? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on? And so amazing team there. Some of that team has since left and they're at Archery HQ, which is where John is at now. And amazing people. They helped me learn so much just about archery, but I definitely wanted to learn and be good at shooting my bow before I ever sent an arrow at a critter.
Gotcha.
Like,
So when you said you switched because you're like, I'm gonna go shoot my gun. Oh, ammo sucks to get a hold of, so I'm gonna switch to bows. At what point were you like, now I'm gonna hunt? Or was that always part of the plan?
that was always part of the plan. Yeah,
Okay.
always part of it. But I did not know that archery would be such an addiction.
Yeah.
Like, because like I said, I grew up shooting guns every now and then, but that was it. That was the extent to which I would get out. I didn't know that I would find a bow in my hand almost every freaking day
Yeah.
since then. And so, yeah, I knew that was the plan. That was what I want. That was the purpose of it. That was why I wanted to get into it. But it became so much more for me because like if like archery is if you're not fully invested in your shot process and the whole thing, your arrow's
Yeah.
not going where you want it to go, right? So archery definitely became more of like an escape for me, but the plan was always to hunt, right? And
Okay.
so wanted to get good with it. I know there'd be dudes who would come into the shop and, hey, I'm getting my first bow because my first hunt's next weekend, and I'm like, what? What?
Yeah. What are you doing, man?
What do you mean? You've never shot a bow? I'm sitting here like I'm months into this and I'm too afraid to send an arrow at a critter right now because I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm good enough yet. But
That's funny.
obviously,
I went to Molokai and a guy did exactly that. He's like, "Yeah, I
yeah.
bought this bow last week," and I was like, "No way!" But he did, however, but he said he was shooting 100 arrows a day every day. So like he put in the time once he
Mhm.
knew he was actually going to be on the trip. But still, it's just
Okay.
like that's crazy. And he did kill a deer, so good on him.
Yeah, nice. Where I went to Molokai in May, actually.
Oh yeah, we'll
Yeah,
we'll
it was
we'll tell that story. I'm interrupting, but let's
no.
continue with where you're going, and we'll talk Molokai because I love to hear it. I'd love to hear your experience because mine
Yeah,
was great.
absolutely. Yeah, so sure enough, my goal is to hunt first year, and kind of this is where like I say like archery was an escape for me, and then hunting and the outdoors has really like been a lifesaver for me too. And so I mentioned I'll tie it back. My dad and my grandpa were both hunters, and they passed when I was really young. Ever since getting into hunting, it has been a way for me to reconnect with them.
Yeah.
And year after year, hunt after hunt, they show up in different ways. And so I'll kind of mention like my first hunt story and then like one that's super recent. And then we can kind of talk about some stories everywhere in between. But my very first hunt ever, I'd go in the bow shop and I'd ask people, in Texas, there's not a lot of public land out there. So most times you're paying to play or you're getting access to someone's
Yeah.
land or whatever. And so I'd kind of ask around if anyone just had like an open weekend because I worked during the week, so I couldn't do anything during the week. And a lot of times it was like, oh, you can come. And they didn't know me super well sometimes, so they'd give me like the price tag. And I'm like, I don't want to pay that much. Like I thought
Right.
hunting was
Yeah.
free. What do you mean?
Yeah. There's
I thought
deer
it was,
everywhere. Why can't
yeah,
I
what do
just
you
shoot
mean?
one?
Yeah, exactly. And so I ended up meeting a gentleman who, unbeknownst to me at the time, so he liked teaching kids how to hunt. Obviously, I was not a kid at the time; I was an adult, but um, nonetheless, he was like, "I enjoy teaching people how to hunt." I have property that he does youth weekend every year with kids who have autism,
Okay.
and I think that was super cool. And we get out there and he's like, any kind of open weekend. Now he'd have other clients throughout the year too, but he's like, if you really just want to learn, like anytime I don't have someone on the property, like you're more than welcome to come out. His name is Ronnie. You're more than welcome to come out there and if we see a deer, you shoot it. If we don't
Yeah.
see a deer, we learn something, right?
Was
And
he
I
going
was
to
like,
help you while you were out there, or was he just sort of like go out there and make your mistakes and learn?
nope, he would go out there with me. Yeah,
Okay.
and so
Cool.
we
Very
would
cool.
talk about like why are we going out at this time and like, here's what they like to feed on, here's different patterns, like this time of year they're going to be a little bit more active because they're running because I didn't know what that was at the time. And so yeah, he did teach me a lot of things about whitetail hunting in Texas.
Okay.
Um and come to find out, his wife had passed a year prior. And it was one of those weird, like, we met, crossed paths and met for a reason kind of things. And when we would
Yeah.
get to talking about, like, he's like, how did your mom manage losing her husband? Because I can't manage losing my wife. And I had
Yeah.
also gone through, like, a bad breakup at the time, and I didn't really have a dad that I could talk to about that. And so he became this, like, grandpa slash dad to me that I never had.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, it was so cool. And so we stayed in contact for the next year, and he would call me his like, oh, my little huntress. Like his kids didn't have an interest in hunting, and so he thought it was really cool to be able to teach someone that was about their age too. And he ended up a year later passing of cancer.
Oh,
And
I'm
so
sorry. That's
it's
hard.
one of those things where it is, but like now I have a third person who's out there with me every single time that I go hunting, and I'm doing it for them, and it's so cool. So I say that like fast forward to, like I said, it was kind of a weird connection of like we met for a reason, we crossed paths for a reason, and I
Yeah.
learned so much from him. This season, I drew an elk tag here in Colorado. I got out scouting for it for the first time the weekend of July 4th, and I
Are we
just about
talking last season or this coming season?
this coming season, yeah.
Okay. Got it.
So I haven't hunted the tag yet.
Okay.
But like I said, we'll kind of talk about everything in between, but just like the really cool story of what hunting means to me and how it shows up in my life is, yeah, so I'm out scouting July 4th weekend. First time I'm getting out for it, early season scouting, just kind of getting boots on the ground, seeing what the unit's like. I've never been out there, and there's a road I'm trying to go up that I damn near got stuck on it because there were so many. It was everyone's out camping for the weekend. It's a holiday weekend, and just got
Yeah.
to a point where I couldn't go any further because of how many cars were on the road. So I'm doing like a 50-point turn to turn around in my truck on this road. And there's like a cliff edge too that like if I'm not careful, like this could end very poorly. And this older gentleman pulls up behind me, he gets out and he's kind of just spotting me back and forth just to make sure that I'm not gonna drive off the edge of the road or anything. And he gets out here, and I was out there by myself. I do a lot of solo hunting. I get out by myself more often than not. And he was like, "What are you doing out here by yourself?" And he was like, "You're stuck here by yourself, like you're struggling to turn this truck around." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm out here scouting." And he was like, "Scouting? What are you doing scouting by yourself?" I was like, "I just drew an elk tag out here, like never been out here before, just kind of checking it out." And so come to find out, he had been a hunter. He's in his 60s, been a
Okay.
hunter all of his life, and he had a really bad incident where he was basically paralyzed from the waist down, and only recently has started to like move again and get out again. And
My
um,
goodness.
he
Like
was
a
like,
hunting accident or like a personal accident?
a very personal one, yeah.
Okay.
But had hunted all his life, and he was like, "No way, like I've hunted this unit all of my life. It used to be an over-the-counter unit, and now it's not. You have to draw it." And he was like, "I would love to show you around, or at least like just tell you places to go, give you some access to places that maybe you wouldn't otherwise have access to. I'm from here, blah blah blah." And
Yeah.
I was like,
That's awesome.
"You don't." Yeah, I'm like, "You don't owe me nothing." But where that ties into the first hunt story is this past weekend I got out scouting again and ended up grabbing dinner with him, which people think I'm fucking crazy for probably because it's this man that I've never really met before, and they're like, "Wendy, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
um, but come to find out, his kids both died, and
Oh my
so similar
goodness.
reason. He was like, "I never got to teach my kids how to hunt.
Oh,
They never really got to get out with me, so like I see it as a way to teach you or to help you, or at least if I can at least like show you an area that you didn't like think about going to and you learn something from that, like that's me kind of teaching the younger generation." And so yeah, it's been really cool to have my dad and my grandpa continue to show up and throughout my hunting
yeah.
career, life, insert whatever word, right? But every
Yeah.
time that I'm out there, they show up in ways, and that was kind of like the most recent time where I was like, I just know this is going to be a good season. Tag field or not, that's always the goal, but like to have that happen and cross paths with someone like that is incredible to me.
And over again. They're definitely looking
Yeah.
out for you. They
Yeah.
have to be, right? They're just like we want her to do what the family has always done, and they're helping you however they
Yeah.
can. And that's
Yeah.
just
It's
having you cross paths with some great guys. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, like I said, I think I was telling one of my friends, I was like, "Hey, by the way, like, here's my location just in case something happens. Like,
Yeah.
don't really know the guy, but like, he's willing to help and all this stuff." And
Does your friend hunt, or is just someone
no,
who's
I
out?
just kind of let him know, like, I don't have any
Okay.
family in Colorado, so
Okay.
I was like, if something were to happen, like, you're the closest person who could do anything about it. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, I was like just but and in a way I felt so comforted going because it was like I feel like I'm being led here for a reason. And then he ended up sharing that story with me, and I was like, God, that's so crazy how that stuff happens.
Yeah, that's amazing. Did your dad or grandpa ever get out to Colorado or any of the western big states to
No,
hunt? Nope, just
no.
always Texas. Okay,
Hmm.
very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I guess my
Another question.
draw.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that d- was it work that brought you to Colorado, or was it passion
Mhm.
of being like, I just fell in love with hunting and I need to get bigger game outside of
Mhm.
whitetail,
I
or
think
both?
Oh, for sure. It was a number of things. So I did my master's in Colorado 2018 to 2020, and then I went
Okay.
back to Texas for work, and then that was when I started hunting. I quickly realized like the first hunt that I tried to do was a spring turkey hunt. And it was like I think someone was posting about it on Facebook or something is how I found out about it. And it was scheduled for like the very last weekend of spring turkey in Texas, and it ended up just getting completely stormed out. And I was like, if I had public land or my own land, I could have hunted all season. But
Yeah.
no, I had to wait until the very last weekend of the season for it to get completely rained out, and I didn't get to go at all. And so I started looking into ways like how do I get access to land that I can hunt? Okay, public land is a thing. Where can I go where I can get access to public land whenever I so desire to put boots on the ground? And so Western states were the most accessible as far as public land goes.
Okay.
I know I'm very big into like before I got into hunting, I've always been big into hiking in the mountains and all of that stuff. And so it was like, that'd be really cool to tie like hiking in the mountains into hunting. I know there's elk and all that, and mule deer and all the like Western big game, which is totally different than sitting a stand for whitetail. And So then I just packed. I was working remotely. I work remotely now, and I was at the time. And I kind of traveled around the country a little bit, and then was like, I'm gonna go to Colorado, and I'm gonna chase elk, and I'm gonna figure out how to do it.
Awesome, good for you. Okay, thanks for answering the question. I was just curious how that connected. So, but I
Yeah.
interrupted your story.
Yeah. So I just came out here, and most of my elk hunting, I would say I'm like self-taught. Like I just kind of put boots on the ground and try to find critters, and if they're not there, I go somewhere else. And
Yeah,
if I'm finding sign, I'll stick around and see if I see them. And so yeah, like I said, it's only my third season elk hunting, but I've learned so much in the time in the last two seasons that I have elk hunted, just by getting out there. And I think where I feel like that relates, I get a lot of messages from people who live out east or are in Texas still, and they're like, how do you get into elk hunting? How do you go out west? What are some like tips and tricks and whatever? And I'm like, you just have to get out there
yeah,
sometimes.
just
Like,
go.
yeah, just go. And now I get it. Most people can't just move out here like I did, right? Like
Yeah,
that's the tough part, especially if you have a family and you're rooted down and all of that. But plan a week trip out here in July and August and a unit that you're interested in looking at. Spend time that week out in your unit, but like maybe bring the family in camp too sometimes, and then get back out here in September or whatever rifle season, whatever season that you're
yep,
hunting, and put a critter down. So I always just tell people my motto is like just do it scared, and like
yeah,
just if you have any
hundred
fear
percent.
of anything, like just get out here and figure it out.
Yeah, 100%. This actually comes up pretty often on the podcast because I talk to a lot of guys that have never elk hunted that have all
Mhm.
these great eastern, whitetail stories or whatever it may be, and they're like, "Man, that's something I just want to do." And I'm like, "Just do it. Just go. Like, just make it happen because it's not getting any easier, right? Like Colorado, red non-resident used to be over the counter, not
Mhm.
anymore.
Yeah.
Obviously, we got public lands, people trying to steal those. So like, just do it because it's going to be easier this year than it will be next year, and it's always going to get harder. So
Yeah,
I'm
oh
with you.
yeah, absolutely. And then yeah, I think a lot of people too, maybe they come out for one, two elk hunts and they never see elk, they never see anything, and so they just kind of give up, you know. I was very fortunate the first opening weekend that I got out here. I did not fill a tag, but I was with a couple friends, and one of my friends at the time shot a 5 by 5 bull elk
Awesome.
on the third day of opening weekend, and I was like, "Pfft, I'm addicted to this. I
It
love
happens
this.
quick. It happens so fast from like
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
really know what I'm doing to this is my personality now. Like that's exactly what happened to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the time I only had a bear tag, so I had drawn a bear tag and an over-the-counter elk unit.
Hmm.
And my thought was, once again, I came out here, didn't really know anyone who was going to be able to get out with me or help me or whatever. And so, actually, someone down at Leading Edge who used to hunt Colorado quite a bit told me to put in for bear in this unit. And the only reason I wanted to hunt bear was knowing nothing about bear at the time. I thought it was going to be easy. It is not easy by
No.
any means. I was like, bear's going to be easy. Like, if I shoot one, it's not that big. I can pack it out by myself, all this kind of stuff. And I've now also hunted bears for the last 2 years in Colorado and haven't been successful, so they're not
Yeah.
easy, by the
Yeah.
way.
I've had
Not.
tags a few times and I've like never really like even seen any. Like they're there, but the one time I did see one, hiked like 2 miles to go get to it because there's this big
Uh,
black blob on this hillside we were
yep.
glassing, and they were like, "Well, you got a bear tag. You want to go?" And I was like, "Let's do it." Then I got
Mhm.
over there with just my bow, and I was like, "What am I doing? That was a huge bear. Why am I standing in this ditch, like waiting for this bear to cross my path?" Like I was all of a sudden flipped from like hiking excitement to terrified. And a funny story is like he did spook. I heard him. He was maybe 15 yards from me. Didn't see him, but he
Oh,
spooked. And then when I turned around and looked the other way, my buddy's on the other side of this little ravine, and
uh,
on the steep hillside, maybe 15 yards behind him, but like a fair amount up, was an
mhm.
elk just standing above him. And I'm like, turn around, like putting my hands up to try to make antlers. I'm like, just look
Uh-huh.
the other direction.
Yeah.
That elk also got away. So not,
Yeah.
but
As it goes.
yeah,
Yeah.
fun day. But yeah, new bear are not easy to hunt. It's high on my list to go to one of those states you can bait them, just so I can like
Mhm.
experience like
Yeah.
lots of bears because Colorado it's tough.
It is, especially you can't spring bear hunt, which like if you could get out and like glass them up on the mountainside in the spring as they're coming out of their dens, that would
Yeah,
be perfect. But you can only hunt them in the fall here when they're in the thick timber where the elk are, and finding elk is just as hard. Like the
yeah,
bear are not really coming out of the timber line at all that time of year. So Yeah, that was not as easy as I thought it was going to be. But my friend was out there, had an over-the-counter elk tag, and shot this bull opening weekend. And at the time, I'm a non-resident, so the tags were pretty expensive.
Yeah.
But I went the next day and spent 800 something dollars on a non-resident over-the-counter tag because I was like, I'm hunting elk for the rest of this month. Like, I'm gonna get out every weekend and I'm gonna hunt elk. And so, yeah, I saw that first bull on the ground and I was freaking addicted. I haven't
That's
shot one
amazing.
myself yet, but it's definitely the
Soon
best time
enough.
I've had.
Soon
Yeah.
enough, especially if you've got that attitude of just like, I'm going to go as many days as I possibly can. A lot of folks, it's funny when you're in the elk woods, a lot of folks, you go by camp and there's just lots of people sitting around having a good time at camp, which is great. I've
Yeah.
had that phase when I started hunting. I didn't
Mhm.
hunt for any other reason other than to be with the people that invited me. And I
Mhm.
was like, let's go to camp. Let's have beers at
Yeah.
camp.
Yeah.
But if you are like, I'm going to go every weekend and I'm going to get out there and I'm going to be out there from dusk till dawn, like it's amazing. And you're going to get it done. I bet. I
Yeah.
bet
Yeah.
you would do this year.
That's why fingers crossed. That's why, and like I said, everyone hunts differently, everyone camps differently, everyone's hunt story and experience is a little bit different. But anytime I've hunted with people, it is very much a social interaction more than it is a hunt.
Yeah.
And I'm also, I cannot sit still for long. It's just like my personality. So
Yeah.
if we're sitting there and it's like not dark yet, or like somebody slept in or whatever, I'm like, we could be hunting. We could be trying to figure out where some things are. Yes, I get it. Animals bed down, and there's a slow time during the day, depending on the moon phases and how much light that you're getting. All of that, right? But at the same time, like while the elk are probably down bedding, like we could maybe just get up in glass and wait to see if we get them to come out of their
Yeah.
beds, or
You
at
never
least,
know.
yeah, you never know. So yeah, I don't sit still well. So if I had
the
more friends who liked to hunt the way that I did, I would very much welcome hunting with other people.
That's
But
awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. For me, it's about knowing my personality and then making
mm,
sure I surround myself with the right folks. So like I can
absolutely.
go 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 and I will kick ass. But if someone
Mhm.
goes, "Hey, why don't we go back to camp?" I'll be like, "Cool, let's go."
Yeah.
Like it's just I'm like, let's just do whatever. But if I surround myself with folks like I went elk hunting 2 years ago with Jermaine Hodge. You may know Jermaine. He's down in
Mhm. Yeah.
Pueblo.
Yeah.
Guy is a monster and he does not stop. And so I was like, all right, well, just keep moving my legs, never stop moving my legs. And I put down a
Nice.
huge elk and I was like, this was the
Nice.
most amazing experience ever. My other hunting buddy, however, he might have said, let's go back to camp and I might have gone with him. So like, it's just putting yourself with the right people.
For
So
sure.
that's great that you're, going solo until you find the right folks for you. Like
Mhm.
that'll get it done. So,
Yeah. Jermaine's awesome. He gave me my first bugle tube.
oh, did he?
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's a
Yeah,
good dude.
Jermaine's fun. We hunted 8 days
Nice.
together. And with Pat Luttrell, if you know him too. So
Okay.
it was a lot of fun, and I got my first archery kill. And since then, they've just started to pile up, which is great. Like
Nice.
Molokai, I got
Uh-huh.
two axis deer in Molokai, and then
Nice.
what else? A moose and an antelope. Since then,
A
so it's all
moose?
just been
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Was it a bull
yeah.
moose?
No, just a cow, just a cow.
Okay.
I'm looking for meat in Colorado. There's a little bit of a secret, but a bull moose is a once in a lifetime. Like once
Yep.
you draw it, and basically you have 1 point or 3 points, you have like a 0.05% chance. With
Mhm.
like 30 points, you have like a 0.08% chance. So it's like maybe
Yeah.
you'll get to do it
Yeah.
if you do one time, but a cow tag, you can continue to get it and then do it again. So I was like, I'd rather hunt moose a bunch of times than
Yeah,
one time,
sure.
and I don't need some antlers. If I ever want antlers, I'll go to British Columbia or
Mm.
Alaska or
Yeah,
something.
because they're not very big in Colorado either. So
No, I mean their bodies are huge, but the
yeah,
antlers aren't.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, no,
So
that's true. And someone did tell me that. I had met someone earlier in the year. I was at the Western Hound Expo in Salt Lake City in February, and were from Colorado and been here all their lives. And they'll same thing with bighorn sheep. Like if you were willing to shoot like a like smaller one or you or whatever the females are, you can hunt them every 2 to 3 years pretty much. And if you're willing to shoot a cow moose, you can hunt them a lot more regularly than like you
yeah,
said, a bull moose is a once in a lifetime tag. And so they're like, it just depends what you're looking for, right? And back to why I got into hunting, to fill the freezer, right? In
yep,
COVID, I very quickly realized that there could come a time and a place where I cannot get my food from the grocery store anymore. And so I need to figure out how can I get this food on my own.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm with you on all of this, but let's go back to some stories. Let me ask: in Texas, what did you put?
Mhm.
Did you manage to put anything down while you're out there learning?
Yep.
You want to
So
share one of those stories with us, or
yeah,
Molokai?
yes.
You choose.
Yeah, yeah. So the very first hunt, well, not first hunt, I definitely sat quite a few times before I ever shot something. Um, was down with that guy that I was telling you about, Ronnie, who he had
Hmm.
mentioned his wife had passed the year prior, and I stuck. He was like, you know what? Anytime I don't have someone out here, come out here. We'll go sit and see what we see. And so I continued to go out there all that season. My first deer ever was a 10-point whitetail buck. And I'm like, oh
Nice.
God, I'm never gonna top this one. Like, it was nice, and I got it shoulder mounted, and I have it downstairs in the living room. And I ended up staying out there that day. So funny story with that one. I was bow hunting, but it was into the rifle season had started in Texas at this point. They tend to rut like late November-ish, depending where you're at.
Okay.
But I was dead set on, I think early on when I started shooting a bow, I was like, oh, I can't kill anything. I can't kill with nothing but a bow. That's all I have to use. But now,
Okay.
now I just like fill in the freezer in whatever way possible. So if it's a bow, a rifle, a freaking slingshot, I don't care how it goes
Yeah, I'm
down.
with you. I'm a hunter of opportunity. I say it's like
Yes.
I prefer bow, but I don't
Yeah.
care. In fact,
Yeah.
I've killed more things with my bow than my rifle, but I've taken my rifle out a bunch. I apparently just am a terrible rifle hunter. So
Yeah, so I was like, we had he had his rifle, it was not mine, that he would take on the youth hunt that he did every year. And it was sighted in and everything. And he only had brought it because there would be axis deer that would come like to the back of the property from a neighboring one, but they wouldn't come closer than like 150 yards from where we're sitting. And he
okay.
was like, no offense, but you're probably not going to shoot some with your bow at 150 yards. I'm like, none taken because I'm not. You're right. And so yeah, he brought it just in case because like, if those come over, like then they're on this property line, like they're yours for the taking. And so we're driving to the blind that day. Each time that I had been out there, we kind of had a buck that I had eyes on, and I didn't really care, right? Like I could have shot a doe, anything, but
Yeah.
we would see him, and he was always a little bit earlier than the other deer that we would see. And as the rut started to pick up, his timing changed quite a bit as to when he would come around. And so we were driving down the road to head to the blind about an hour earlier than we normally would that season. And we see this buck coming across the road after, like behind us in the rearview mirror.
Okay.
And he stops to eat at this little bush that was right there. And he was not headed the direction to the blind that we were planning to go to. And so Ronnie kind of looks over at me and he goes, this is probably the one shot that you get at this deer, and it might be the last time you see him. It might not be. You never know. He was like, that's about 150 yards away. Like, what are you thinking? And I was like, oh God, like I've never shot this rifle that he has before, right? Like, I know he was taking it for me, but in my mind, I wasn't ever going to touch it. I wasn't ever going to use
Yeah.
it. Like, whatever. Like, it's just here for shits and giggles. It looks cool. And yeah, exactly that. He was like, you shoot it with a rifle, or we just go sit the blind and we see what comes into the blind this evening, and you can shoot it with your bow. But he was like, but I'm telling you, he's not heading the direction of the blind, so he's not going to be there.
Okay.
Whatever you shoot, if you shoot anything, it's not going to be him. And I was like, whatever. Like, I'm an opportunist, right? Like,
Yep.
if this is an opportunity, whether it be a good deer, small deer, doe, whatever, like, whatever, I'll just take it. So we set up, there's this like wooden post there that I rest the rifle on, and I look through the scope, and like, it took 0 seconds for me to get the pin hair just right there. Like, that's how I couldn't have set up more perfectly. And he was like, "Are your crosshairs on him?" And I was like, before I even could say yes, I'm pulling the freaking trigger.
He's like, I guess that's a yes.
Yeah, and he goes, "Were you ready? Were your crosshairs even on him?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, they were." And then sure enough, you see this buck just fall over. And so that was my first hunt ever, like, or not my first kill ever was, I was
Yeah.
planning to bow hunt, and we were headed to the blind that day and just saw him. Fortunately or unfortunately, he wasn't headed where we were going, and I was an opportunist and I took the rifle and I shot this buck, and that was my first harvest ever.
That's awesome. So how'd you feel afterwards? You obviously had no hesitation in the moment. I'm kind of like that where like with the first time I went hunting, I was like, I don't even know if I'll be able to shoot. I just don't know if it's
Yeah.
in me. I just don't know if that's who I am as a person. When I
Mhm.
had an elk in front of me, it was boom. Like fire, like no problem. But how'd you feel
Yeah.
afterwards?
I cried.
Yeah.
It was a mix of emotions. I think I had no problem obviously pulling the trigger because I think I was just so excited that like, oh, this is what I've
Yeah.
been wanting to do, and I've been wanting to get out here and do this for so long now, and now I finally have an opportunity, even if it was with a rifle. And so I was like, okay, this is so cool. And then afterwards we walked up to it and I see it laying there, and I'm like, oh God, I killed something. Like there's something that's on the ground, and like I hadn't learned how to like skin it or anything. I had learned how to process it, get the meat off of it,
Yeah.
any of that. So I think that was also processing. I'm like, oh fuck, what do I do now? Obviously I'm with someone who knows what they're doing, right? But
Yeah.
I'm like,
A little bit of a
okay,
safety blanket. Yeah.
yeah. I'm like, I did this and I don't know what's next. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. But I also recognized like in that moment the role I play in this like human predator prey life cycle. Like I just took a life and I'm now a part of this cycle of life.
Yeah.
And so I think like that was kind of what came over me too. And I kind of ever since then in anything that I've killed, harvested, insert whatever word, I have this like somber feeling and appreciation for like what this animal has given to me too.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I got into it to put meat in the freezer, and I was like, once we started skinning it and quartering and all that stuff, I was like, hmm, how freaking cool that I just put meat in my freezer myself.
Yeah.
I didn't have to go buy it. I did the work to do this myself. And so, yeah, it was just this like mix of emotions. But I remember him being like, are you excited? And I was like, I promise I'm so stoked right now, but I don't know what to feel.
A little
Like,
overwhelmed. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
That's kind of how you're supposed to feel, I think. Is just like unaware, just kind of overwhelmed. I love it. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I think it's been that way with everything since then. I've never been the one to like jump up and down and be like, yeah, like I got it. I've always just been like, huh, okay, I did it. Now the work begins. Like now I get to go, whether I have to pack it out or drag it out or whatever. And I get to quarter it and I get to process it and I get to eat it now. So
Yeah.
I think for me, the hunt itself is kind of like I mentioned earlier, like the journey, the process, like I enjoy the hunt, I think, more than most people do. Obviously, your goal is to always fill your tag, right? But the
Yeah.
process of the hunt, I very much enjoy, yeah, I think more than most. But the work begins once the animal's on the ground and I finally get to feed myself with that critter. And so
That's
yeah,
awesome.
that was an interesting feeling the first time I did that.
I bet. Give yourself the ability to celebrate when you need to. I didn't celebrate
Oh,
the first
yeah.
couple, but man,
Yeah.
when I shot that antelope this year, I like 8 days of crawling through sagebrush. I was like, yes! Yeah, I was like pumping my fist, and I realized I should probably turn around and see where that antelope is running to, because it was like the
Yeah.
light was going out. But I was just like, I turned to my buddy, and I was like, I did it! Like it just, I was overwhelmed with like how hard it was, and then I accomplished it, and then I turned around and was like, where'd he go? Like I had no idea.
Uh,
Fortunately, Luminoc, I saw him like 100 yards that way. Like I never would have guessed he would have run that way, but found him. So
Nice, yeah. I mean, speaking of getting excited, and we can bring Molokai in now. I think when I shot my axe, which I went out hunting with a rifle the first day, got one with a rifle the first day, and I took my
nice.
bow. So I was like, I'll hunt the rest of the time with my bow, and I never ended up getting one with my bow. I took a shot at one, but it was a little too dark.
Yeah.
Um,
Eh,
which I don't know.
that's okay though. I did the same thing. I don't know if
Yeah,
I've actually told this story, but like Molokai, just for people's reference, they're
yeah,
like wild hogs in Texas.
yes,
They
correct.
are a nuisance. They're eating all of the plants. Because they eat all the plants, the runoff of the volcanic soil is killing the coral reefs. You come to that island, everyone on that island is like, kill as many as you can. Like they
Hmm.
just want them gone. So shooting one at night, not a problem. I did the same thing, Whitney, where I actually had a herd coming in and it was like too dark. I didn't want to leave, but I was like, well, they're 30
Yeah,
yards away, or maybe it was
yeah.
40 yards away. It's like, I should shoot them. I was like, let me turn on my headlamp because I don't have any other way of seeing them. I turned it on to red and I could see them and they didn't spook. So I was like,
Mm.
sweet. So then I put my headlamp on and I pull back and I realized with my headlamp on, all I can see is my bow now. So like I've lost all depth. So like I can now see
Oh,
3 feet in front of me and that is
yeah.
it. And so I was like, well, whatever. They're a nuisance and they want them gone. And I shot an arrow. It hit nothing. But yeah,
Okay.
no, I've definitely shot an arrow a little too late in Molokai. So
Yeah, yeah. I drew back on a really nice buck. The second day that I was out there, I perfect stock. It couldn't have been more perfect. Like he kind of came out of the trees, and so I got to stick in the trees, kind of walk uphill.
Yeah.
And then I kneeled down at about 70 yards because I thought I saw one of them move. And you mentioned herds, like those axis deer are in herds almost all of the time. So you
Yeah.
have
A
so
lot of
many
eyes.
eyes all of the time.
Mm.
It's freaking crazy. So I get to about 70 yards. I kneel down. I peep out of the trees a little bit. I come back to full draw. I settle my pin right exactly where I want to settle it. And this little fawn walks right in front of my pin. I was like, so I'm holding, I'm like, he's bound to move, he's bound to move, he's bound to move. And then I don't know what happened. This buck looks up at me and then he runs. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because yes, I know they're a nuisance, but I'm not going to shoot a little fawn. Like,
Yes,
just
understandable.
for my own good, right? I know some people would, and they, like you said on Molokai, they don't really care to shoot the deer. But I was
Yeah.
like, "Ah, I'm not going to shoot a fawn." And then I also had a spike buck come in at like 30 yards that I just let walk. And the one that I shot was not a big buck by any means. But I also like the one thing I won't do is shoot a fawn or a spike. It just
Yeah.
mentally, right? I'd rather shoot a
Yeah.
big doe, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, and so I kind of let him walk. So I had opportunities with my bow. I didn't take it, or the one arrow that I did send, it was a doe and it was a little too dark. And I'm pretty sure I hit her in the bottom of the leg because I skinned some hair, gave her a little haircut, and there was no blood on it, no blood, nothing. And
Yeah.
obviously never found her because I hit it way too low. But yeah, when I shot that buck in Hawaii, and so I was with two of my friends at this point. I think when I'm with people is when I'm truly like, oh yeah, like that was awesome, like I did it. Like when I'm by myself, it's like a very somber, like, okay, I did it. Now the work begins.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. Molokai, I really enjoyed that hunt because it, like elk hunting, right? You 3 years. How many arrows have you flung? Or 2 years coming up on third? How many
Mhm.
arrows have you flung at an elk?
None.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So you just don't get the opportunity. Molokai, I went out there with 12 arrows. I think I came home with three because they
Yeah.
were just there. They kept showing up. I kept taking shots,
Yeah.
and I kept being able to learn from my mistakes. And I got a little bit better,
Mhm.
and I got a little bit better, and eventually I got some. But I
Yeah.
was like, 60 yards is too far. Like I know I can shoot 60 yards. Really, I can hit, a silver dollar at 60 yards, but
Yeah.
I can't hit an axis deer because they're too damn fast and they're too damn
Oh,
jumpy. So I was like, okay, I got to go to 40. So I got to figure that
yeah.
out. And then I don't know if you know the bow hitch. You probably do. But I had a bow hitch and I had to take it off when I left to get it in my case to fit everything with my clothes and all the stuff. And I tried to put it back on and I hand tightened it. It was rattling. And I didn't have a screwdriver to tighten it tight. So I was like, okay, that's got to go. So I'm like just making all these different adjustments,
Uh,
shooting lots of arrows. And it was a really fun hunt just because of the reps that I got to put in there.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
got multiple stocks. And same thing I love. I got out last year for the first time, antelope hunting. It was the over the counter tag that Colorado has. Multiple stocks. I
Yeah.
probably got 5 to 7 stocks a day at least. I got to 100, 150 yards multiple times, and I quickly learned that antelope will watch you stalk all the way into 100
Yep.
yards. And
Yep.
then the second you come up and knock an arrow, they will run.
That's so true. My antelope that I shot, I got to 32 yards, I think. And
Nice.
like, I didn't believe it. Like, I kept ranging him over and over again. Cause like, no, I must be hitting some grass that I can't see. Like, this doesn't make sense. It like wouldn't comprehend that. Then pulled back and he was looking away. And right when I pulled back, he turned his head. You talk about shot process? None. I was
Out the window.
sending the arrow. I was like, I don't care. I've spent too many days trying to get this guy, and it nailed
Yeah.
him. So, but
Nice.
yeah, antelope is a special hunt. I don't know if I
Oh,
want to
they're so
archery
much
antelope
fun
hunt.
though. Like I think I'm only gonna be able to get out for the opener this year. I spent like 5 days, I think, last year.
Yeah,
And I didn't fill my tag, but it's the most fun I've ever had hunting. Other than now access deer, like you said, there's so many opportunities, and I think
yep,
a lot of that was I got fortunate with going to Molokai. So last year, sighting in my bow for my antelope hunt, I met a guy who lives on the island of Molokai.
Oh, cool.
He has a buddy who lives here in Colorado, and every year they trade off. Like the Colorado buddy goes to Molokai, and then the next year, Willie, who's in Molokai, comes out here to Colorado. And so he was coming out for antelope. He's got an elk in Colorado before, so he was coming out here for antelope, and he's on the range doing the same thing, he's flown all this way, making sure his bow's still squared away. And I'm a social butterfly. I'll frickin' talk to anybody. So just get to like chatting them up, and I'm just like I don't tell people I have a podcast. That's weird to me. So like didn't
Same.
even
Yeah.
yeah, didn't even mention any of that. And
I have some
uh,
buddies. I'm like, stop telling people. Like they don't want to know. Like, let's
yeah,
just
like it's
have a
so
normal
weird.
human conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I'm the same way. But anyway, so we just get to chat, and then I was heading out, and they were gonna go shoot. There's a 3D course that was there too. And he was like, "Have you ever been interested in hunting like axis deer in Hawaii?" And I was like, "Have I been?"
Yeah.
Like,
You're like, has
what?
anyone not been? Like, are
Yeah,
you
like
kidding me?
what? Yeah, what kind of question is that? And he's like, "You're more than welcome to come out whenever you want to." And I'm like, "Are you And typically when people offer those things, I'm hesitant to follow up because it's like, like I don't mind asking for help, but I don't like asking for things, right? Like
Yeah.
I'll ask all the education help whatever in the world, but when it comes to like asking for something tangible, it just feels like grimy to me.
Yeah.
um so I was like, I don't know, maybe I won't follow up. And we kind of kept back and forth on Instagram. And earlier in January, I think, I was like, I'd really love to come out there if that offer's still there. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, come out here. You let me know the dates that you want to be out here. I'll take off. We'll get out there. And so it was really cool. One of my friends went with me, and then he was there too, and got to meet like they're amazing people. I don't know if you
Oh,
got to
so
spend
awesome.
some time with the natives, but they were like the nicest people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, it was so funny. I was there with a bunch of like just giant white guys, and so like we stood out like a sore thumb. Like
Oh my,
I'm 6'4", and I was maybe the second shortest guy there.
wow.
And every time we went anywhere, like, what are you howlies doing here? And we're like, we're hunting axis deer, and then that's where I get the whole kill them all thing. And then we're like, well, we're trying. It's hard. They're like, what? You just shoot them. And we're like, well,
Uh-huh.
we're doing bows, and they're like, what the hell are you doing bows for? Just use a gun. It was so funny, but very nice. Everybody there, and even the we were on a property that had proper guiding, and they were sending
Mhm.
people off, and like I'd be hiking in the trails in the middle of the night, and they'd pull up in their truck and be like, where are you going? How can I help you? And I'm like, this is great. Like, give me a ride down the road. Like, let's start there.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
they're all
They're
super
awesome.
nice. Yeah.
Definitely not like you said, opportunity. You could, if you're hunting with a rifle in Hawaii, you could stack bodies out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes,
and
you can.
I like to make things a little bit more challenging. So, like I said, once I got one with a rifle, I was like, I'm just gonna hunt with a bow. My buddy ended up shooting two actually, which is really cool. And just one of those things where it was like it was in his lane, not mine, kind of thing, because we stuck together
Gotcha.
most of the time. So God, I would recommend going there just even as a new hunter, right? Like I think it's a good place to just get reps in. I spent so much time crawling in the red dirt, like my bino harness is just coated in it still
Yep.
3 months later.
All my camo is
Um,
a tinge of red now
yeah.
from that trip. So,
Yeah. Yeah, my boots are still a little bit red and I wouldn't change a thing. Like it's
yep.
a really good opportunity to learn and to get because like you said with it, I've never drawn back on an elk before. I've and the
Exactly.
3 years that I've hunted them and I go to Molokai one time and I get multiple opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. I think before my Molokai trip, I'd drawn back on two elk. One
Okay.
I killed. The other one, I launched a bomb for no reason. It was like my first year. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, I don't know how far they are. I didn't have a rangefinder. I was just like,
Yeah.
thump, and it landed 50 yards short of them because they
Yeah.
were probably 700 yards from me. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you just get a ton of reps, which is great just to like hone your skill. And honestly, I've been successful every hunt since. So I don't know if that's coincidence or correlation, but
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
recommend it enough. But make sure you have access to anyone that does want to go on that hunt because it is all
For sure.
private. So,
For sure, yeah, yeah. And I would say too, like as far as opportunity goes too, I think a lot of people maybe get in their mind, I want to go Colorado elk hunting. And then that's
yeah.
the one hunt that they save up PTO for, that they save up money for, whatever. But there's so many other opportunities around. Like I've hunted multiple different states now. I've hunted multiple different critters now. And like for me, I want to hunt as much as I possibly can. So
Yeah.
I finding spring hunts, like I got out for turkey for the first time this year. I got out for waterfowl for the first time this past season, like getting out for
Awesome.
those hunts. And like that's just something to do when all of the archery and the rifle hunts are done. Now going into December, January, I can get out for birds and then springtime comes around, it's turkey season and like you can pretty much hunt turkey over the counter in almost every state, I'm pretty sure.
All of them but Alaska.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So like easy over, yes, maybe it's a little bit more expensive than in your home state, but it's cheaper than an elk tag in a non-resident
Yeah.
state. So get out and
Yeah.
hunting turkeys was so much fun. Oh my goodness. Like
Yeah.
I'll probably hunt turkeys every year now because of how much fun I had
Definitely.
for the first
Definitely.
time.
They're so much fun. And you know what's funny is they're on Molokai. They're all over the place. My
Oh,
last day there, I was
uh,
actually sitting a blind. My only day sitting a blind.
yeah.
And there was four Jakes just for an hour playing in this water pool right in front of me. And I'm like, this sucks. And I text the guy that he's not our guide, but he's like the guy that gives us gives
Yeah.
us the access. And I'm like, how much is it to kill a turkey? I just don't recall. I've got four of them in front of me. And he doesn't reply. And then they walk away. And within 30 seconds of the birds walking away, he's like, dude, just shoot one. Don't worry about it.
Oh
And I was like, oh,
no.
you got to be kidding me. So didn't get any turkeys, but got to watch them a lot, which was fun.
Yeah. We always
I also
call
called in an axis deer in Hawaii, which was super
nice.
cool.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
we did.
little like, yeah, like
Mhm.
I mean, it sounds like an elk, right? The does, and called him into 10 yards, and he was just staring at me, and I was like, I'd already used my one buck tag, so I was like, this is super cool, but I was just sort of crossed arms staring back at him.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, we didn't see. I know the turkeys are everywhere. We saw a few of them, and every time my buddy that's out there said the same thing. Is like if you see it, shoot it. When we would see them, we'd be driving down the road, so he'd pull over onto the side of the road, and I'd like hop out with my bow. And of course, if you go chasing after an animal, they're gonna run, right? But
yep,
every single time I'd hop out with my bow and just go like sprint after these turkeys, hoping that they'd stop. And of course, they never did. But it was fun anyways.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Whitney, do you have any other stories you want to share with us today? Otherwise, we can wrap this thing up. But I do want to have
Um,
you back because it sounds to me like you're basically spending all of your free time hunting. So I have a feeling we could have you on every year, and you'll have a whole bunch of new stories for us. But any other ones you want to touch on today?
yeah, no, nothing that I want to touch on today. I think, yeah, the first, yeah, kind of like you mentioned, the first year or two that I was hunting, it was like I got out for one or two hunts, and that was about all I did. But like last year, I haven't, I think I've had like 3 weekends at home over the last like 8 months because I
That's
just
awesome.
try to get out like as much as humanly possible and put myself out there. And so I'm always adding new hunt. I went to Africa this year,
No way.
which I guess I'll kind of speak to that a little bit to add to this one. It's different.
Yeah,
Um, it's cool in that like I got to see animals there that I would never ever see here in the States. Now, if you go down to Texas and you're on like an exotic ranch, you might see some of those, right?
yeah,
But I was in South Africa specifically, and hunting South Africa. It's mostly all high fence ranches, but they're like 30,000 acre ranches, right? So they're
yeah.
massive. But there's animals everywhere. We're pulling up like where I was at was about 2.5-ish hours from the airport that I flew into, and we're kind of pulling up to the property, and I see a giraffe, and I was like, "Do people hunt those things? Do they shoot giraffe?" And my guide was like, "Yeah, how much you want to pay for it?" And I was like,
That's funny.
what? I can shoot a giraffe? So then I'm thinking, like, how do you take a picture with a giraffe? Like,
Several, I think. You take several pictures.
I'm like, how does that even work? And so that just blew my mind. And so that there's your opportunities are endless. Like if you go
Yeah,
to South Africa, you're going to shoot something. The only way you won't is if like you're truly hunting like the biggest trophy you've ever seen.
got it.
And if you're holding out, then you might pass on some. But like if you're just like I was not holding out. I'd never been before, so I'm like, I'll shoot whatever I'm open to shoot. Like,
Yeah.
you tell me to pull the trigger, and I'm going to. Which actually, so I took my bow with me to Africa.
Okay.
And I sat a blind the first day. A massive impala came in. I had a perfect shot, 32 yards, perfect pass through. He's quartering away. I got the lungs because there was some lung blood on my arrow. He stopped about 50 yards away. There was some lung blood where he stopped, and then he ran a little bit more. We never found that impala.
No way. Really?
We never found it. And so of course, like if you go to Africa, I only went mostly because I wanted an Instagram giveaway. So
Oh,
um
really?
I, I had like 4 days of lodging that was covered, and then like I got to shoot an impala and a blessed buck for free, and then I could add anything else that I wanted. So I just paid for tipping the guide, any animal that I wanted to add, and then my flight, obviously. So
Okay.
what would have been like a $10,000-$15,000 trip was like a $4,000 trip.
That's awesome.
So I was like, heck yeah, I'll never get this opportunity again. I'll take it, right? But I ended up hunting with a rifle the rest of the time because it was like I don't you pay to play there, right? If I
Yeah.
shot this animal, I'm now paying for this
As soon as
animal.
it bleeds, you're paying, right?
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
so my thought too was, first off, that's the first time that's ever happened to me. Obviously, like I said, I shot that doe in Hawaii low and like wasn't
Yeah.
too worried about it. That was the first time I felt so fucking good about a shot with my bow and
Yeah.
never found the end. And that's gut wrenching. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's hard to, and I know in bow hunting that happens often. Like, so I imagine in my lifetime of bow hunting, it might happen again. I would like for it to not to, but it might, right? And so it was like, okay, I took my bow out with me, but it was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to hunt with a rifle too when the opportunity comes. And so yeah, that was the first time I experienced like shooting something and never finding it, and that was hard for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had that, like my elk, we shot it, and it was quartering two, and we recorded it on video. I have the whole thing on video. And so we're giving it time because we're like, who knows? Maybe it's a little far back. The more we watch the video, we're like, oh, by the time we're, an hour of watching this video, I basically hit it in the back leg.
Mhm.
Like we just keep just saying, no, I don't know. It's a little farther back than it was the second
Yeah.
ago. And, but we ended up waiting for like 2 hours, and we go down, find the arrow. There's full pass through, but there's no blood on the ground. And it was just like heart wrenching just to be like,
Mm.
oh no. And so then we start like gritting, and no one has found any blood. Not one drop of blood was found looking for my elk. Unfortunately, it ran into this big field and keeled up, and we did spot it, but like it was hours, and it was a terrible feeling. And I felt so good about the shot when I let go, but you analyze anything for 2 hours, you're gonna pick it apart. So
Yeah,
yeah.
my buddy that shot that 5x5 the first time I was out took a terrible shot on it, and we searched for it for hours. It was just like an adrenaline, like, oh my God, it's here, shoot,
Yeah.
kind of. And it was a frontal shot, and he missed the vitals entirely. He actually ended up like puncturing the jugular, but he
Okay.
kept he set a timer and was like, I want to go now. And I'm like, maybe we shouldn't go now, but it's your elk, we'll go, right?
Yeah.
And we bumped it twice, and then finally didn't find it like till hours later. And
Yeah.
he's panicking the whole time, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh, we're gonna find it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. With
yeah.
with my elk, when we watched the shot, I was with Jermaine and Pat, like I mentioned, and Pat was like, "That's exactly the same shot I did on my elk last year," and we
Mhm.
trailed him for 10 hours and had to put another arrow in him. And I was like, "No, like I don't want to look for this elk for 10 hours." So they were just talking me into just misery, but it ended up he
Yeah.
died immediately. Turns out we did gutless, so I don't even know what it hit, but he ran 100 yards, reared up, and then fell backwards on his horns, and we found him
Oh,
upside down. Yeah,
wow,
it was
that's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which made it hard to find because we were looking for antlers,
Yep.
and
Right.
Jermaine says he spotted. He's like, I just saw a fuzzy rock, so we went towards that fuzzy rock, and
Yeah.
he found it. So there we were.
Yeah.
So
It's too funny.
cool, Whitney. Well, this was fun. This was a lot of fun. Let's do this. Why don't you? I know you don't like talking about you having a podcast, but you got one. So why don't we tell the people about your
Yeah.
podcast,
Mhm.
kind of the idea behind it, and then where people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, God, this is gonna come at some point. I just know it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I host the Wild Strength podcast. I've done it for a little over a year now, and then just recently kind of became a part of the Okayest Hunter podcast network,
very cool.
which I feel like could not be more fitting for me because I am like as okay gets, is what I usually
Yeah,
say. But yeah, kind of a podcast that ties my background in strength and conditioning and human performance to my passion for hunting and the outdoors. And I really talk about everything on there. Sometimes it's hunting, sometimes it's training, sometimes it's neither of those. I'm really passionate about like mental health too, and so a lot of the conversations kind of take that sort of approach as well. So everything under the sun I've probably talked about, and if I haven't, I probably will at some point because I just like talking to people, like getting to know
yeah,
people and having those conversations. So the Wild Strength podcast, and it's I believe on like most, if not all, streaming platforms, and there's an Instagram page for it too. And yeah, if you want to reach out to me personally, like I always love meeting new people, having conversations, and if I haven't hunted for long, but if there's anything that I can help with, or I can send you in the direction of someone who can help, I'm more than glad to. And I'm on Instagram too, so it'll just be my first and last name on Instagram.
perfect. I'll put links to everything in the show notes. Make it easy for
Cool.
people.
Cool.
Whitney, thank you. This was a ton
Yeah.
of fun. I'm glad we finally connected. I'm glad John got us connected here,
Yeah.
and I'm sure we'll have you back on in the future.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much.